What is one of your favorite days of the baseball season? Even though there can be a ton of answers to that question, like playing in tournaments or playing in playoffs at the end of the season, I think there are many of you out there who would say the first day. That first day of baseball when you've had a long off season of not playing, and you're finally strapping on the cleats and walking out on the field for a fresh new season. For coaches, if you're new, you get to meet your team for the first time. And if you're coming back for another season, you get to see your team again and how much each player has grown and improved. In today's Bullpen Bulletin, I'm discussing why all coaches should set all expectations and goals for the season in the first practice. Not the second or the third, the very first practice. Hey team, Coach Hart here with Building Better Baseball, the best place for baseball education. I want to welcome all new teammates who are finding this channel for the first time. Welcome to the team. This channel is for youth baseball players and coaches to learn more about baseball so they can take their game to the next level. If that sounds good to you, don't forget to support the channel and hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the bell icon too so you don't miss a video to improve your game. New teammates who are watching for the first time, be sure to check out the free guides down in the description below. There's a free 2-hour practice plan for coaches, and there's a free baseball equipment guide for players and parents. I'm here to help you have your best season yet. Grab yours down below. Now, let's discuss why the first practice is the perfect time for coaches to lay down all expectations and goals for the season. My first reason today is you're going to set a tone for the season. If you're a brand new coach to a team, you most likely don't have any idea what your team is like. Are the players talented or mostly beginners? Do they all know each other and play well together or not? Same thing goes the other way as well. Your team doesn't know you and your coaching style and how you like things to be. The first practice is the absolute best time to set expectations and set a tone for the season. You also want to set your team goals as well. You want to let your team know how you like to coach. Do you stress the little things and are hard on details? Or are you more laid back and let things go as long as the team is improving and having fun? Whatever your coaching style is, you want your team to know after the first practice. You don't want there to be any confusion amongst your team about you as a coach. Since you don't know your team yet, my advice for new coaches is to wait until the end of practice to have the big expectations talk. You can have a welcome talk in the beginning, but the expectations and goals should wait until the end for 2 reasons. 1, you can use the practice to see how your players play. If you are going in expecting your team to be great, but after practice you see that most of them are still beginners, that might change your expectations a bit. And 2, if you see something in practice that you don't like, you can use that as an example in your meeting at the end. If you're a returning coach and you know exactly what your team is like, you can have the expectations talk at any time. Your talk also shouldn't be too long because all of your returning players know how you like things to operate. This will be more of a goal-setting meeting for you, like win the league or go to playoffs or have a winning season, something like that. My number 2 reason today is there will be no surprises. In baseball, and especially youth baseball, there are times when your team will do something that you don't approve of as a coach, and that goes against your coaching philosophy. They'll show up 5 minutes late and walk to the field and think that it's not a big deal. Or they'll all walk out to their positions for a new inning. Or they'll be messing around and carrying on during practice stations when they're supposed to be getting their work in and helping each other get better. You'll have individual players who will say something they shouldn't have to the other team, or throw their helmet when they get back into the dugout, or do something that they're not supposed to do. All of these different situations that happen need some sort of consequence or reaction from you as a coach to set the situation straight and make sure it doesn't happen again. However you choose to react or set as a consequence, you don't want there to be any confusion with your team on what's happening. If you set your expectations for the season in the first practice, your team will go home knowing exactly what's tolerated and what's not. They know exactly what the consequences will be if certain things happen, such as if you throw any piece of equipment in a game or practice, you're sitting the rest of that game or practice. With that clear expectation, your players know what's tolerated and what's not. And they know exactly what will happen if they do that. This makes sure that there's no confusion with your players when they're sitting a whole game because they threw a helmet in the first inning. Set your expectations in the first practice, and there will be no confusion with your team going forward. My number 3 reason today is your team will be prepared. Playing a full baseball season is hard work. There are some teams, depending on their age and league that they play in, that have 3 to 4 practices a week along with 2 to 3 games that same week. That's a ton of baseball for young players. You want your players to be prepared for the season, mentally and physically. If your team is of a higher level and you play high-level travel baseball, your players should be at the level where they're practicing their skills and getting better throughout the year, especially in the winter months leading up to the spring season. Maybe you have winter workouts or something to help them prepare. That's great that they're preparing their bodies for the long season, but they also need to prepare their minds. You can't have success unless you have both a strong body and mind. When you have your first practice and you set your team goals and expectations for the season, your team will be prepared. The goals you set will get them in the right headspace to attack the season. They know what they're striving to accomplish, and that's preparation of the mind. Maybe your team is good enough to win a championship, or maybe your team is trying to have your first winning season, or maybe your team is full of beginners and your goal is just to have a full game without an error. Whatever the level, setting clear goals for your team will help them get prepared for the season. They have something to achieve. When you set these goals in the first practice, you waste no time in helping them envision where they're going to be at the end of the season, and they will be fully prepared to start the pursuit of those goals in the second practice. Coaches, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this topic. Leave a comment below and let me know, when do you set your goals and expectations for your season? And don't forget to grab your free 2-hour practice plan and your free baseball equipment guide down below. Remember, coaches, if you set your expectations and goals in the very first practice, you'll set a tone for the season, your team will have no surprises, and your team will be fully prepared to take on the season. Thanks for spending some time with me today. I hope this video gave all coaches a new view on when and how they should set their expectations and goals for the season, and why the first practice is the absolute best time to have this talk. I'll see you next week for another edition of the Bullpen Bulletin.